to divide is to multiply by the reciprocal. Memorize this statement. Now, reciprocal means a number and its reciprocal. You can think of it as the flip-flop, but the actual grown-up definition is that two numbers are reciprocals of each other if their product is 1. So two numbers are reciprocals if their product is 1. So for example, the reciprocal of 2 is, well, you can think of it as flip-flop, but that's for fractions. This is not a fraction. That can be fixed pretty quickly. Is flip 2 over 1, and then we get 1 over 2. And then let's check. Well, 2 times a half, that's kind of intuitive, but 2 times 1 over 2, and depending how you multiply fractions, you can grow 1 here, but you see that 2 over 1 times 1 over 2, we get 2 over 2, which is 1. The reciprocal of 3 over 4 is 4 over 3, because 3 over 4 times 4 over 3 is 12 over 12, which is 1. All right. Let's start with the division we understand. 20 divided by 4 equals to 5 is true because the multiplication backwards works. What times what is what?
What, 4 times 5 is 20?
Mm-hmm. So we could say this division can be rewritten that 4 times what is 20, right? And that what? So here is the question. So 4 times what number will give us 20, right?
Okay.
Now let's apply sort of this idea to 3 over 10 divided by 2 over 3. Equals to what? Well, we can rewrite it like this, 3 over 10 divided by 2 over 3, but make sure to have a much bigger bar there. Equals to what, right? And now we can rewrite this. How? This times what is going to give us 3 over 10. 2 over 3 times what is going to give us 3 over 10, right? So what happened is, and if you're not sure, start with the division you understand. And we just rewrote this division question as this question. We just did the same thing with fractions. So 3 over 10 divided by 2/3 is the number that if we multiply 2/3 by, we get back that 3 over 10. And then here is the idea. Okay, well, we start with 2 over 3 and we want to get to this number. Well, the easiest way to get to from 2 over 3, let's get to 1 first, because if we get to 1, 1 times 3 over 10. So if we could just make the result of 1 first, then 1 times 3 over 10 is going to be 3 over 10. And how do we make this 1? Just by the reciprocal. Now let's check out. 2 over 3 times 3 over 2 is 1, and 1 times 3 over 10 is 3 over 10. So this will work. And so the magical number, but here it is what we're dividing times the reciprocal, only they're in a weird order. But basically 3 over 10 divided by 2/3, 3 over 10 times 3 over 2. So this is another way to argue. From 2 over 3, first we go to 1, because from 1, it's so easy to go to 3 over 10. And so from 2 over 3 to get to 1, you just multiply by the reciprocal. 2 over 3 times 3 over 2, that's 1. And 1 times 3 over 10 is 3 over 10. And so here is the multiplier that we need. Again, these are pretty much pointing you to the same direction, which is to divide is to multiply by the reciprocal. Okay, so 3 over 10 divided by 2 over 3 would be, you take 3 over 10 and we rewrite, this is very analogous to subtract is to add the opposite. It's analogous to that. But to divide is to multiply by, and we flip-flop this. So we get 3 over 2. So, and then now you know how to multiply fractions. 3 times 3 is 9. 10 times 2 is 20, nothing to simplify. So that's how you do it. That's the algorithm.
It's always the second fraction? Always.
Yes, I think this sentence, if you store the information in this sentence by the reciprocal, it's like multiplying by 2, by the reciprocal. So it's stored in this sentence. I have this story. My colleague told me this story that in elementary school, students were learning fractions. And when fraction division came about and the students were confused which one to flip, the teacher told them, well, flip the one that's on the side where the windows are. And that worked until they got a new classroom where everybody got the division wrong because the window was on the other side and they flipped the wrong one. So I think the message is that you want to store the concept, which is to divide is to multiply by the reciprocal. It's just like when we say 10 minus 3, we don't mess with the 10, right? We just say 10 plus -3. Same idea. Let's do one more. 2/3 divided by 6/15. We write down the first one and then we multiply by the reciprocal. And now there is plenty of cancellation right there. But we can say that's 30/18, and then they're divisible by at least 6. 30 is 5/6, and 18 is 3 times 6. All right. And let me ask you this. I don't know you young people, I don't know how you live, but in my time, we had to go to the basement to do laundry and we had to use quarters. So there were these orange roll of quarters that you could buy for $10. So let me ask you that. If you have a roll of quarters worth $10, how many quarters are there?
Would it be 40?
Yeah. And that would be the same as saying 10 divided by 1/4. And you understand why that's 40. 4 per dollar, and then we have $10. But that's one division that you can sort of perform mentally. All right, so that's one way. That's the quickest way. The second one is kind of cool. I didn't even know about this. Just a few years ago, someone shared it with me. Let's do 3/4 divided by 2/5. Okay, so if these were integers, we could do something like 15 divided by 3. How much is that? 15 divided by 3 is 5. Or if it's 7 divided by 8, we can say, well, that's what 7/8 means. So we could do that, but we can only do that if we have the common denominator. So if we express them with the common denominator, that means that the slices are the same size and we can just perform a division between the numerators. So if you bring them to the common denominator, 20, 4 times 5 was 20, 3 times 5 is 15, 5 times 4 was 20. So now we can say, okay, now that we are talking about the same thing, it's just 15/8. Kind of cool. We can do this. Let's do this one. It's 3/10 divided by 2/3. 3/10 divided by 2/3. So you don't have to do this, but in case you want, the common denominator would be 30. 10 to 30, that was a multiplication by 3, so that's 9. 3 to 30, that's a multiplication by 10. So now that we have the same things, like then it's 9/10. 3 to 30, that's a multiplication by 10, and 2 times 10 is 20. So we have 9/20. We can do this one too. Maybe I should have started with this one, with the quarter, because 10 divided by 1/4 would be, well, what was the question? How many quarters in a $10 roll? If we express them with the common denominator, that would be 4. And now we can say that, yeah, 40 quarters is $10. And how many? And now it's just 40/1. All right, let me show you the third way. But again, my recommendation, do the first one. This is just the alternative stuff in case you don't like the first one. You cannot divide by mixed numbers. So whenever you have a division with mixed numbers, the first thing you have to do is turn them into improper fractions because those can be flipped. For example, 3 1/3 divided by 2 1/2. You can't do it with mixed numbers like this. So what we have to do is first get rid of the mixed numbers. Rewrite them as improper fractions. What's 3 1/3 as an improper fraction? Right, 3 times 3
You got
plus.
3 times 3 plus 1.
It's 10/3, good. 2 1/2.
5 over 2.
And now we're ready. To divide is to multiply by the reciprocal. So 10/3 times the reciprocal of 5/2 is 2/5. There's a little cancellation between 5 and 10. So we have 2 times 2 is 4 over 3 times 1 is 3. So it's 4/3.